You know, when you argue with a fool, you just prove there are two. And I consider Congresswoman Omar, Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez, Congresswoman Tlaib, Congresswoman Presley, I think is her name. They call themselves the Squad. I consider them to be fools.
Senator John Kennedy just called AOC, Ilhan Omar, an entire squad fools on camera, and then backed every single word with facts the left cannot answer. Stick around because his breakdown is everything mainstream media refuses to cover. Hit subscribe right now and join thousands of conservatives who stay ahead of the political fight every single week.
There are a lot more important issues in front of the United States Congress and the American people than who tweets what to whom. So let me say it one more time. I thought in the president's original tweet, I thought it was a poor choice of words. I think I know what the president meant, and he clarified later and said, look, if you're not happy in America, leave. Just leave. And I agree with that. But his original articulation of that concept, in my opinion, fell short of the mark. Number two, frankly, I don't know why the president felt the need to tweet on this subject at all. You know, when you argue with a fool, you just prove there are two. And I consider Congresswoman Omar, Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez, Congresswoman Tlaib, Congresswoman Presley, I think is her name. They call themselves the Squad. I consider them to be fools. They hate America. They think America was wicked in its origins, and it's even more wicked today. They ought to be thanking America instead of calling America evil and wicked and racist. But this is America, and they have the right to their opinion. But I don't like to see the president even dignify their point of view. Besides that, I think that the Squad, as they call themselves, they are destroying the Democratic Party. You know, when your opponent is screwing up, don't interrupt him. Let him go. I mean, just looking at this from a political standpoint, if I didn't know better, I would think the members of the Squad were GOP plants. I mean, they think that illegal immigration, socialism, higher taxes, abortion are all moral goods. They think America, Israel, free enterprise are moral bads. That's not what most Americans believe. And that's kind of where I am on the subject. The president has explained his position. He has said, look, here's what I meant. If you're not happy living in America, leave. It's a free country, and I agree with that assessment.
If I am not on this committee for one term, my voice will get louder and stronger, and my leadership will be celebrated around the world as it has been.
Today's resolution, as it relates to Representative Omar, details 6 statements she made as a sitting member of Congress that under the totality of the circumstances disqualify her from serving on the Committee on Foreign Affairs.
Don't tell me this is about consistency. Don't tell me that this is about a condemnation of anti-Semitic remarks when you have a member of the Republican caucus who has talked about Jewish space lasers and an entire amount of tropes, and also elevated her to some of the highest committee assignments in this body. This is about targeting women of color in the United States of America. Don't tell me, because I didn't get a single apology when my life was threatened.
The representative can say whatever the heck she wants, but we don't have to accept it or embrace it. Individuals who hold such hateful views should rightly be barred from that type of committee.
This institution is better because of her leadership, and the Foreign Affairs Committee benefits from her perspective. So let's talk about what's really happening. Republicans are waging a blatantly Islamophobic and racist attack on Congresswoman Omar. And I've said it before, I will say it again. The white supremacy happening is unbelievable. This is despicable.
We're not removing her from other committees. We just do not believe when it comes to foreign affairs, especially the responsibility of that position around the world with the comments that you make. She shouldn't serve there.
The gentlewoman is recognized. On which the eyes and
Senator John Kennedy just walked into the room, looked the squad dead in the eye, and said what millions of Americans have been thinking for years. No filter, no apology, no softening the blow. And the left is absolutely losing their minds over it. Welcome back to Republican Reactions. If you're new here, this is a channel where we say what mainstream media is too scared to print. Let's get into it. Senator John Kennedy of Louisiana didn't call a press conference. He didn't release a carefully worded statement vetted by a team of consultants. He sat down, looked into the camera, and called Congresswoman Ilhan Omar, Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib, and Congresswoman Ayanna Pressley exactly what he believes they are: fools. His words, not mine. And honestly, the man made his case. Kennedy invoked a saying that every sensible American has heard at some point. When you argue with a fool, you just prove there are two. He wasn't throwing a tantrum. He was making a diagnosis. And then he laid out the symptoms one by one, methodically, like a doctor reading a chart that everyone else in the room has been pretending not to see. According to Kennedy, the squad believed America was wicked in its origins and is even more wicked today. Think about that for a second. These are sitting members of the United States Congress. They took an oath to a constitution they apparently think represents something evil. Kennedy's point is blunt, and it lands hard. If America is so wicked, so irredeemably corrupt, why are you collecting a government paycheck funded by American taxpayers? Why not find a country that lives up to your standards? It's a fair question. The squad has never really answered it. Kennedy went further. He said they ought to be thanking America instead of standing in front of cameras labeling it evil, wicked, and racist. And he's right. The very platform that allows AOC to command a national audience, the very microphone that amplifies Ilhan Omar's grievances, the very institution that gives Rashida Tlaib a vote on American policy, all of it exists because of the country they spend their days condemning. That's not progressive politics. That's biting the hand that feeds you on live television and calling it courage. Now, Kennedy also made a point that the political strategists in the room should have written down. He said, and this is where the dry wit kicks in, that if he didn't know better, he'd think the squad were GOP plants. Because everything they champion, illegal immigration, socialism, higher taxes, unlimited abortion, attacking Israel, treating free enterprise like a crime scene, is a gift to the Republican Party. That's not an insult. That's an electoral analysis. The squad isn't pulling the Democratic Party to the future. They're pulling it off a cliff, and moderate Democrats are strapped to the bumper. Kennedy also took a subtle but important shot at the framing around the president's comments. He said he didn't think the president even needed to weigh in, not because the squad doesn't deserve pushback, but because their positions are so out of touch with mainstream America that the best strategy is to let them keep talking. Don't interrupt your opponent when they're destroying themselves. It's old political wisdom, and Kennedy deployed it with the precision of someone who's been in the room long enough to know when silence is louder than a speech. And when it came to the president's core message, if you're unhappy living in America, you're free to leave, Kennedy didn't flinch. He backed it, not as a threat, not as xenophobia, which is how the media immediately tried to frame it, but as a statement of fact about a free country. You have the right to your opinion. You also have the right to live somewhere else. Those two things are not mutually exclusive. Here's the bottom line. John Kennedy didn't say anything that half of America hasn't already said at their kitchen table. He just had the platform and the backbone to say it out loud in front of the camera. The squad calls that dangerous. Conservatives call it honest. The difference between those two reactions tells you everything you need to know about where this country is headed and who is actually fighting to keep it standing. If this video gave you something mainstream media won't, hit that like button, drop a comment, and subscribe to Republican Reactions. We're just getting started.